The roots of the Israel-Arab conflict run deep, a tangled web woven over centuries. Understanding this complex history requires acknowledging the profound attachments each side holds to the land, shaped by ancient ties to the same land, a land revered and contested in equal measure. These ties are not merely political, they are deeply embedded in religious, cultural, and national identities. For Jews, it's their ancestral homeland, promised in sacred texts and longed for over centuries of diaspora. It represents not just a place but a spiritual and historical anchor. The yearning for Zion has been a constant thread in Jewish history. For Palestinians and Arabs, it's the land where generations built their lives and culture, a place of deep-rooted heritage and belonging. It's where their families have lived for centuries, cultivating the land and building communities. These competing claims set the stage for a struggle that intensified in the 20th century, a period marked by shifting global powers and rising nationalist movements. Zionism emerged in the late 1800s, aiming to establish a Jewish homeland in what was then Ottoman, later British territory. This movement gained momentum in response to rising anti-Semitism in Europe. Jewish immigration increased, driven by both ideological conviction and the desperate need for refuge, alarming the local Arab population who feared displacement and the loss of their ancestral lands. This fear fueled growing resentment and resistance. British rule after World War I brought conflicting promises to Jews and Arabs, creating a volatile and unsustainable situation. The Balfour Declaration in particular sowed the seeds of future conflict, fueling tensions, leading to outbreaks of violence and growing animosity between the two communities. In 1947, the UN proposed partition, a desperate attempt to resolve the escalating crisis. Two states, one Jewish, one Arab, a solution that aimed to divide the land equitably. With Jerusalem internationalized, recognizing its significance to both faiths and its unique status, Jewish leaders accepted, seeing it as an opportunity to establish a sovereign state. Arab leaders rejected, seeing it as unjust and dispossessing, a violation of their rights and a threat to their existence. In 1948, Israel declared independence, fulfilling the Zionist dream. Neighboring Arab armies invaded, sparking the First Arab-Israeli War, a conflict that would reshape the region. For Israelis, it was a fight for survival, a battle to defend their newly established nation. For Palestinians, the Nakba, hundreds of thousands became refugees, forced from their homes and displaced from their land. The war established Israel, solidifying its presence on the world stage, but left a legacy of displacement and deep Arab resentment, a wound that continues to fester. The refugee crisis and sense of injustice still echo across the region, fueling ongoing tensions and shaping political dynamics. These events created the realities and emotions that define the conflict today, a complex interplay of historical grievances and contemporary challenges. The land remains at the heart of both people's identities, a source of both profound connection and bitter division. The struggle is not just about territory but about self-determination, security, and the right to exist, but about history, memory, and belonging, the narratives that shape each side's understanding of the past and vision for the future. This is the foundation of a conflict that continues to shape the Middle East, a conflict with no easy solutions and a long and painful history. The 1948 war, a brutal and transformative event, was only the beginning of a long and complex struggle. It set the stage for decades of animosity and conflict that would deeply scar the region. Decades of conflict followed, a seemingly endless cycle of violence and recrimination. Each clash left its mark, further complicating the already fraught relationship between Arabs and Israelis. Suez, Six-Day, and Yom Kippur wars, deepening wounds and mistrust on both sides of the conflict. The human cost was immense, and the political landscape became increasingly polarized. Each war reinforced Arab fears of Israeli expansion and dominance in the region, fueling a sense of vulnerability and resentment. The 1967 Six-Day War was pivotal, a turning point that dramatically reshaped the map and the dynamics of the conflict. Israel captured the West Bank, Gaza, Sinai, and Golan Heights, significantly expanding its territory. For Israel, it was a defensive victory, a demonstration of its military prowess, and a strategic imperative. But for Arabs, it was a humiliating loss, a blow to their pride, and a source of deep national trauma. And the start of occupation for millions of Palestinians, who found themselves living under Israeli control. Israel's military strength, backed by the US, has long been a contentious issue in the region. It is seen as a constant threat in the Arab world, a symbol of Western influence and perceived bias. This history of war and occupation has had a lasting impact, has created a profound lack of trust, making any progress towards reconciliation incredibly difficult. Peace treaties with Egypt and Jordan exist, representing important but limited breakthroughs. But most Arabs see Israel as a source of instability, a foreign entity imposed upon their land. Memories of lost land and displacement continue to shape the narrative, are passed down through generations, fueling suspicion and resentment towards Israel. Every new crisis is viewed through this lens of past violence, reinforcing existing biases and making compromise even harder to achieve. The legacy of mistrust makes genuine peace elusive, a distant dream that seems increasingly unattainable. The wounds of war shape perceptions on both sides, creating a cycle of animosity that is difficult to break. Land remains the most tangible and fiercely contested source of conflict in this region. It's a battleground not just for territory, but for the very essence of existence. Israeli settlements, sprawling across the West Bank and East Jerusalem, represent a major point of contention. These settlements have become a deeply embedded issue in the ongoing conflict. They are seen by Palestinians as not only illegal under international law, but also as a significant threat to the viability of their future state, effectively carving up the land they envision as their own. Each new settlement, each expansion, deepens the sense of loss, displacement, and powerlessness felt by the Palestinian people. It shrinks the space for a potential two-state solution. Jerusalem, a city sacred to Jews, Christians, and Muslims alike, holds immense religious and historical significance for all three faiths. It is a constant flashpoint, a tinderbox of religious and political sensitivities. Israel claims the entire city as its unified capital, a claim that is not internationally recognized by most countries. Meanwhile, Palestinians envision East Jerusalem as the capital of their future state, a vital component of their national aspirations. Restrictions imposed on access to holy sites, particularly Al-Aqsa Mosque, consistently fuel anger, resentment, and a deep-seated sense of cultural and religious threat among Palestinians. The persistent lack of clearly defined and agreed-upon borders keeps tensions perpetually high, creating an environment of uncertainty and instability. Palestinians steadfastly demand a return to the pre-1967 borders, the lines that existed before the Six-Day War. Israelis, however, frequently cite security concerns as justification for maintaining control over certain territories. For Palestinians, this is fundamentally about their right to self-determination, to govern themselves and build their own nation. It's about ending what they perceive as an ongoing occupation of their land and their lives. The realities of daily life under military control, with checkpoints and restrictions on movement, coupled with the relentless expansion of settlements, inevitably breeds deep-seated resentment and frustration. The broader Arab world views these actions as a significant impediment to achieving a lasting peace in the region. They see it as directly threatening the establishment of a viable and independent Palestinian state. Ultimately, the struggle over land transcends mere territorial disputes. It is a profound struggle over identity, national aspirations, and the very future of both peoples. The core of the conflict is about much more than lines on maps and control of territory. At its heart, it's a fundamental struggle about dignity, human rights, and the right to live a life free from oppression and occupation. The conflict is also about power and influence in the Middle East. Many Arab nations see Israel as a Western-backed force disrupting regional balance. U.S. support gives Israel military advantages, fueling Arab fears of vulnerability. Some Arab leaders seek ties with Israel for strategic reasons, but face public opposition over the Palestinian issue. Israel's suspected nuclear arsenal adds to the imbalance, prompting regional arms races. Control over resources like water further complicates relations with accusations of unfair distribution. These dynamics create a volatile environment where mistrust runs deep. The struggle is not just political, but strategic and economic. Power, security, and survival are at stake for all sides. The region's instability is both a cause and effect of the conflict. The conflict's impact is felt in daily life across the region. For Arabs near Israel, the threat of war is ever present. Israeli military power is a constant reminder. Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza live with checkpoints, restrictions, and the fear of violence. Daily routines are shaped by occupation and uncertainty, fueling anger and despair. The conflict dominates media, education, and politics, reinforcing the image of Israel as an enemy. Generations grow up with narratives of threat and injustice. Trauma and loss are widespread, deepening the sense of victimhood. The international community's failure to resolve the conflict adds to the frustration. Fear and resentment make empathy and understanding difficult. The cycle of mistrust continues, shaping identities on both sides. To understand the conflict, we must hear both Arab and Israeli perspectives. Arabs see Israel's creation as colonialism and the source of Palestinian displacement and injustice. Israelis see a return to their ancestral land and a fight for survival after centuries of persecution. Each side views the other's actions as existential threats. Where Arabs see occupation, Israelis see security. Where Palestinians see land theft, Israelis see historic homeland. These parallel narratives rarely meet, making compromise difficult. Both peoples have experienced trauma and loss, fueling a sense of existential struggle. Understanding these stories is essential for any hope of peace. Empathy is the first step toward breaking the cycle. Without recognizing each other's fears and aspirations, the conflict endures. The path to peace begins with seeing the humanity in the other. Achieving lasting peace is difficult, but not impossible. A two-state solution remains the most widely supported framework. Israel would need to halt settlement expansion. Palestinians must guarantee security and recognize Israel. Core issues, refugees, Jerusalem, borders, require creative compromise. International actors can help, but real change must come from within. Societal change is vital. Education should foster understanding, not hatred. Grassroots initiatives can build trust where politics fails. Peace depends on shifting perceptions, Israel as a permanent neighbor, Palestinians as partners in dignity. Moving beyond zero-sum thinking is essential. The journey is long, but a future of coexistence is possible. Only by embracing mutual benefit can both peoples find security and prosperity. The goal is not just an end to conflict, but a new beginning for the region. The hope for peace endures, even in the face of history's weight.